Hello my dear friends, you're in the Military Summary channel. In this video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous 12 hours. We have a lot of very interesting updates, so let's start. And first we're going to talk about the conflict on the territory of Ukraine. During the previous night between the 7th and the 8th of July of 2026, it was very difficult both for Russians and for the Ukrainians. As you may know, currently there is a NATO summit on the territory of Turkey, so that is why both the Russians and the Ukrainians were trying to show that they have stronger cards. The Ukrainians were attacking deep inside of the territory of the Russian Federation, trying to show a picture to the NATO countries, and the Russians were trying to reduce the Ukraine's military capabilities. So let's discuss everything in details, and first let's talk about the Russian attack. The Minister of Defense of Ukraine this morning reported that the Russians used 176 drones to attack the territory of Ukraine, and this number is a bit bigger than a usual number that we can see every day when Russians attack the territory of Ukraine. As a result of this attack, the Russians managed to deal significant damage. Furthermore, during the previous night between the 7th and the 8th of July of 2026, the Russians were attacking the city of Kyiv using ballistic missiles, and we have lots of videos on this matter. In this video we can see explosions that took place on the territory of the city of Kyiv as a result of the Russian overnight attack. Once again, the Russians were using ballistic missiles. Furthermore, pro-Ukrainian sources reported that these ballistic missiles appeared from nowhere. The Ukrainians couldn't detect these missiles, and they managed to see them only before several seconds before the Russians attacked facilities on the territory of the city of Kyiv. So lots of videos were published. Here we can see another explosion on the territory of the city of Kyiv. The sources reported that a warehouse was destroyed, and this morning we received this satellite picture where we can see that the entire micro district of the southwestern parts of the city of Kyiv is covered with a very big fire. So the fire, according to the satellite picture, takes probably these territories. So lots of, as you can see, a very big part of the city of Kyiv was covered with fire as a result of the Russian overnight attack. Furthermore, the Russians attacked the northeastern parts of the city of Kyiv, and we are talking about these facilities. As you can see from this zoom, we can see that this is something like a logistic hub, and we can see the most important, lots of trucks. This during the night, fire anomaly was recorded through this territory, and this morning pro-Ukrainian sources published lots of pictures, lots of videos of how the fire crews were trying to extinguish the fire. So another logistic hub was destroyed by Russians as a result of the overnight attack. But the city of Kyiv wasn't the only city that was attacked by Russians. The sources reported that the armed forces of the Russian Federation also attacked the city of Snowsk. This time the Russians were attacking facilities along railways, and these pictures were published this morning where we can see fire crews were trying to extinguish the fire. The Russians attacked vehicles that were located on the territory of this facility, believing that the Ukrainians were using these vehicles to attack deep inside of the territory of Russian Federation. That the Ukrainians were using them as drone carriers. Another facility was destroyed in the northeastern parts of the Sumy region, and here we can see another fire anomaly, and probably the same story. The Russians managed to find out that the Ukrainians were using these facilities as something industrial area where the Ukrainians were improving drone carriers, trucks, with the purpose to use them later. Now let's move in the southern direction. Lots of explosions were recorded through the Odesa region, Dnipro region, and Zaporizhzhia region, as usually these days. So first let's talk about the Odesa region. According to information we have, the Russians destroyed another gas station along M15 road, and this picture was published this morning where we can see the consequences of attack. As we can see, according to these pictures, this gas station was completely wiped out by Russians. Furthermore, the Russians attacked the city of Odesa, and this morning we received this picture where we can see fire crews trying to extinguish the fire. Another warehouse or logistic hub was destroyed by Russians. Now we are moving probably to the heart of the special military operation, to the logistic heart of the special military operation from the Ukrainian side. This is the territory between the cities of Zaporizhzhia and Dnipro. And as you can see, according to these icons, lots of explosions and attacks were recorded during the night. First, let's talk about the city of Zaporizhzhia. The sources reported that the Russians attacked this industrial area, and we have these pictures published this morning by pro-Ukrainian sources. And as you can see, according to these pictures, the Russians destroyed another parking site with significant number of vehicles. And here we can see the moments when the Russians attacked this territory. The sources reported that this attack took place early this morning. Furthermore, the Russians attacked the central part of the city of Zaporizhzhia, and according to information we have, the Russians attacked something like a police office in the central part of the city, and the Russians attacked the northeastern parts of the settlement. And here we have this picture published by pro-Ukrainian sources. Another parking site was destroyed by Russians with dozens of vehicles located there. This attack was carried out by Russians with a bomb, not with a missile, neither with a drone. Another important city is the city of Dnipro. During the previous 12 hours, lots of videos were also published from this area. In this video, we can see a black smoke over the city right after the Russians attacked the city of this morning, and we received the report later that the Russians destroyed another Poshta post office terminal in the city of Dnipro. So as we can see, the Russians are trying to reduce Ukraine's capabilities, and every single day we receive dozens of videos about targets destroyed by Russians. And now we are moving to the city of Kharkiv. The Russians resumed their attacks through the northwestern parts of the city, and according to information we have, the Russians destroyed a gas station in the northwestern parts of the city of Kharkiv. And here we can see how exactly the Russians, using, by the way, FPV drone, were attacking these territories. The results of attack, the gas station was destroyed, and the Russians were trying to hit with bombs this logistic hub, but it seems that the Russians missed. We have lots of videos with craters in this area, and as you can see, according to these pictures with craters, the Russians missed. But it seems that in coming days the Russians will repeat the strike, and they will try to wipe out this barrack and this facility as well. So once again, the situation this night was very difficult both for Russians and for the Ukrainians. The Russians, as you can see, continued destroying logistics and gas station infrastructure. The Ukrainians from their side continued attacking Russian oil refineries and, the most important, the Sea of Azov. Now let's talk about the Ukrainian attack. Yesterday in the evening, pro-Ukrainian sources published this picture where we can see the approximate routes of attacks. As you can see, the Ukrainians were using hundreds of drones to attack in different directions. Later, the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation reported that between 8 p.m. and 8 a.m. the Russians destroyed 415 drones of the armed forces of Ukraine. And yesterday, during the 7th of July, between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. the Russians destroyed additional 190 drones. So which means, summarizing everything, during the previous 24 hours the Russians destroyed almost 600 of drones. The Ukrainians, as you can see according to this picture, we're launching drones in different directions, and this morning first explosions were recorded. Probably the most important direction, according to my understanding, is the Sea of Azov, because today, once again, pro-Ukrainian sources published a video where we can see how Ukrainian drones were attacking vessels, commercial vessels and oil tankers on the territory of Azov Sea. Later, pro-Ukrainian sources confirmed that up to 9 vessels or tankers were destroyed by the armed forces of Ukraine. And this is not the first video of this type. I would like to remind you that yesterday pro-Ukrainian sources published this video where we can see also attacks carried out by the Ukrainians, and we can see dozens of vessels in the Sea of Azov. According to information we have, yesterday the Ukrainians damaged 8 tankers or 10 tankers or something like this, a very big number. During the previous night, the Ukrainians repeated the attack and damaged additional 9 tankers. So all in all, we can see that during the previous 2 days, the Ukrainians destroyed or damaged up to 20 vessels in the area of the Sea of Azov. And the most important thing is these satellite pictures where we can see the exact number of tankers and vessels in this area. The sources reported that there are more than around 40 vessels or tankers on the territory of the Sea of Azov, which means that the Ukrainians will continue this attack until they destroy every single tanker on the territory of the sea, which means that during the upcoming night, between the 8th and the 9th of July of 2026, the Ukrainians will attack, most likely will attack once again, and another dozen of tankers probably belonged to the shadow fleet of the Russian Federation would be destroyed. Furthermore, pro-Ukrainian sources published this video where we can see how the Ukrainians were filming the consequences of attack, not from the eyes of drones, but somewhere from this area. Maybe there was a boat belonged to the armed forces of Ukraine, and we can see how they were filming the situation with vessels on the territory of this area. So most likely every single, once again, tanker or every single vessel in this Sea of Azov would be destroyed by the Ukrainians during the next several days. Moving further, according to information we have, the Ukrainians also attacked an object of energy infrastructure in the area of the city of Krasnodar. Here we can see probably gas station, a gas compressor station, and as a result of attack, this station was significantly damaged. Furthermore, during the night between the 7th and 8th of July of 2026, the Ukrainians attacked deep inside of the territory of Russia, and these attacks are very interesting. First of all, the Ukrainians attacked the city of Saratov. More precisely, the Ukrainians were trying to hit the Saratov oil refinery, but as of the morning of the 8th of July of 2026, we haven't received lots of videos on this matter, which means that most likely the Russians managed to repel this attack. Here we can see a video where the Ukrainian drone was flying towards the Saratov oil refinery, but was intercepted by Russians. So this is a very important signal, because every time the Ukrainians attack the Saratov oil refinery, this is something like a signal that the Russians are planning to attack Ukraine with strategic aviation that is deployed on the territory of the Engels airfield, which is located in this area. So this is a signal that most likely during the upcoming 24-48 hours, the Russians are planning to carry out another massive attack through the territory of Ukraine. And the most powerful attack carried out by the Ukrainians took place in the central part of Russia, in the area of the city by the name of Nizhnekamsk. Here we can see the Nizhnekamsk chemical plant. And as for this chemical plant, the Ukrainians were using hundreds of drones, and during the nights and this morning we received lots of videos where we can see how Ukrainian drones were approaching this Nizhnekamsk chemical plants, and how the Ukrainians were attacking this facility. As of the morning of the 8th of July of 2026, we have this video where we can see the consequences of attack, and as you can see, the Nizhnekamsk oil refinery was badly damaged. Here we can see the same facility, but from another angle. But as for this strike, we have a very interesting detail. I would like to remind you that the Russians produced their drones on the territory of a very interesting and specific zone, and we are talking about the Alabuga military facility. So the Russians, Geran drones, the Russians produced them in this area, and as you can see, the distance between the Nizhnekamsk oil refinery and the special zone Alabuga is less than 30 kilometers, which means that the Ukrainians, if they wanted, they could attack this facility where the Russians produced drones, but they decided decided not to attack this territory, but they attacked the oil refinery. But it doesn't mean that Ukrainians are not able to do this. It seems that Ukrainians, for some reason, decided not to do this. Anyway, let's wait and see how the things are going to develop, but it seems that sooner or later the Ukrainians would attack this territory as well. From the other side, we start receiving panic statements from the Ukraine's authorities of the western parts of Ukraine. For example, today the mayor of the city of Ivano-Frankivsk stated that the western parts of Ukraine will be in ruins. Russia will intensify strikes in September, October, says Ivano-Frankivsk mayor. So, and this is a logical development of the situation, because as we discussed during the previous days, the Russians have created something like a major kill zone along the line of combat contact in depth of 150 kilometers. So now, according to information we have, everything which is located inside of this, let's say, black area have been destroyed by Russians, or the Russians are planning to destroy facilities, logistic hubs, parking sites, service centers, gas stations, gas compressor stations, and so on. And of course, it is obviously when Russians finished with this territory, the Russians would move their focus further in the direction of the central part of Ukraine. The only mistake that was made by the mayor of the city of Ivano-Frankivsk, he projects that the western parts of Ukraine would be reduced to ruins during September, October. But I think that during September, October, the Russians would shift their focus in the direction of the central part of Ukraine. As for the western parts of Ukraine, I believe that the Russians would shift their focus in this area somewhere between November, December, and January of 2027. So this is the situation, and this is most likely how the things are going to develop, of course, if the Ukrainians are not able to change the situation. Now let's move further and let's discuss the situation on the ground. During the previous 12 hours, additional changes were recorded. And first, let's talk about the western Zaporizhzhia direction, where it seems that the Ukrainians, as a result of their Zaporizhzhia counter-offensive operation, managed to recapture the city of Stepnogorsk completely. And these are the changes on the ground between the dates. This is the end of the 7th of July, and this is the beginning of the 8th of July of 2026. These changes were made based on pro-Russian sources, published additional changes on the ground, and these changes were made based on this video, where we can see how Russians were attacking positions of the armed forces of Ukraine to the south of the northern parts of the city of Stepnogorsk. So these are the changes. The Russians were forced to fall back towards the settlement of Kamensk, and most likely the Russians will be regrouped there. Now, moving further, according to information we have, the Russians managed to restore control over the territories they lost to the north of the city of Slavyansk. I would like to remind you that months ago we talked that the Russians managed to cross the river of Seversky Donetsk and to improve positions between the settlements of Tetianovka and Priship. Later, pro-Ukrainian sources reported that they managed to recapture these territories, and today we received the report that the Russians managed to improve their positions and that the settlement of Priship was completely captured by Russians, and that the Russians continue advancing further on the Ukrainian side of the river of Seversky Donetsk. And this is a very critical situation, because from these positions the Russians are able to attack the city of Slavyansk from behind and are able to cut the main logistic lines. The Kupiansk direction. During the previous 24 hours, pro-Ukrainian sources reported that the Russians suddenly intensified their Kupiansk offensive operation. And pro-Ukrainian sources confirmed that the Russian offensive operation, the Russian Kupiansk offensive operation, is taking place not just along the river of Seversky Oskol on the Russian side, but the Russians are trying to improve their positions also on the western bank of the river on the Ukraine side of this territory. According to information we have, the Russians also improved their positions in the most northeastern parts of Sumy region. The Russians improved their positions between the villages of Ulanovo and Bachevsk, and the Russians continue advancing. The sources reported that these days the Ukrainians expect the Russian offensive operation in the area of the Chernigov region, and this information was provided today by pro-Ukrainian sources. The Ukrainians believe that the Russians prepare a major offensive offensive operation, and this offensive operation is coming. Russia is preparing a breakthrough on Chernigov from the Bryansk region, according to the Ukrainian Border Service. And you know that these days the Group of Forces North published lots of updates on this matter. They stated that the Ukrainians concentrated lots of troops in this area, and I would like to remind you that during the previous 2 weeks the Ukrainians announced a mandatory evacuation from this area, and lots of sites, as you can see, were evacuated by the Ukrainians with the purpose to concentrate additional troops to stabilize the situation. Anyway, the Russian Chernigov offensive operation may start very, very soon. And that's it for the short video. The Military Summary channel remains to condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for your watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye-bye.